Welcome back to another episode of the Clear Skin Solutions podcast. I'm Delia, and I am back with Amelia and Nikki from Clear Skin Solutions, our acne slayers. And today we want to talk about one of the most asked questions that we get, which I'm sure all you acne sufferers are wondering the same thing. Why am I breaking out? That's a really good question. So let's dive into the core of the matter. We know that acne is because of a dysfunction of the pore. And a lot of times because of that dysfunction, we're trying so many different things to try and figure out and understand why they're breaking out. So ladies, could you share what exactly is the dysfunction of the pore and why it leads to breakouts, and what role does it play in the acne development?
So a lot of times people hear dysfunction of the pore and they think that it works slower than usual or that it's not working as efficiently. When in reality, the dysfunction of the pore is that it's working in overtime. So it's working super efficiently, really, really quickly, and you're shedding a ton of dead skin cells because your skin is working a lot faster than typical. So Nikki likes to talk about an analogy of a hamster wheel. I like to say it as a slide. Skin cells are trying to go down the slide, and you might have a couple of skin cells at a time. But if your cells or if your pore is dysfunctional, then you're going to have all of these skin cells trying to go down the slide at one time, and they're all getting caught up.
Right.
So then you're getting all of these skin cells that are getting trapped inside of a pore. So it's not necessarily that you have an overproduction of sebum or that you're dirty or you have like too oily of skin. Yeah. It's that your pore is dysfunctional, so it's not allowing you to process things the same way that you would otherwise.
Right. Correct. I mean, the hamster on the hamster wheel is it's working really hard, but accomplishing nothing, right? Like it doesn't matter how many are on there if it's dispelling, or you used a word that's perfect, because if it's expelling it, it's fine. Mm-hmm. Because most normal pores are just that it's not staying trapped. Right. Whereas the dysfunction, it stays trapped.
What about people with oily skin? Like if you've got oily skin, is the sebum kind of contributing to this dysfunction of the pore?
You know, it's really, it's interesting to me that the medical community has focused more on the oil. So Accutane is focused on the oil, right? Because it's coming from the belief that the oil is the issue, the sebum is the issue, and it's really not. Because if it's moving correctly, sebum keeps us youthful looking. Sebum is not the enemy. No, it is not. It is the dysfunction of the pore. And that's why the medical community has a hard time with it, because they're focusing on the wrong aspect. Right. And so antibiotics and medications are really focusing on, or Accutane is really focusing on slowing that down. Right. But it's not, that's not the full picture, right? It's not the whole thing.
Because you still have the dysfunctional pore. That's not going to change unless you do specific things to help it out, right?
And then you also have inflammation, which is caused by so many other things. And so if you start messing with antibiotics and certain medications that are upping our inflammation, then we're causing more inflammation on top of a dysfunctional pore. So it's not fixing any of our systems. It's just kind of a temporary band-aid.
Right? It's like a temporary, but at the same time causing a problem.
Long-term
right?
issues.
We've talked about that, like people that say tanning helps. Tanning helps temporarily to dry you out, but it's not getting to the root of the problem, which is the dysfunction of the pore.
And it's probably causing inflammation in the skin, I would imagine.
100%. It's actually creating more inflammation inside of that pore, which means as soon as the tan's gone, even before the tan's gone, we've got more issues.
So can you share maybe a little bit just about how inflammation kind of is in part of the dysfunctional pore?
So inflammation, I always like to say inflammation plays a role in the dysfunction of the pore, right? Like they go hand in hand. So my diet, my lifestyle, the products I use on my hair, my laundry soap, any other ones you can think of? Toothpaste, hand lotions,
Did you already say like SLS from laundry
SLS.
detergent?
No,
I'm like
thank
trying to
you.
go through the list of the
Yeah.
things I've already said. I'm like, there's quite a few.
Perfect. SLS is one of the top ones because it's in the toothpaste. And to be honest, it's what we become addicted to, that stripping feeling, because, clients will switch to our body wash and go, it doesn't feel like it's cleaning anything. It's because we're so used to feeling stripped.
Yes.
Of our natural oils that we need, we want. That's part of us having healthy skin.
And then your body is like freaking out because you don't have any oil. So it's trying to produce an overproduction.
It's overworking.
And then you're like, my skin is so oily. I need to use like a super setting something to get rid of it and get dried out. And you just back and forth.
It
over
goes
and over.
back to that overworking. It's like, I will help you. Our skin is so smart. It's like, girl, I got you. I will just work extra hard for you.
Well, because the skin needs some natural oils on it. And I know, Nikki, like as far as being able to treat an oily skin, I know that makes you really excited when you get somebody with oily skin coming in.
Love oily skin. And why do I love oily skin? No matter what the problem might be, I can come up with stronger, better solutions because they're not as sensitive. I can go faster, smoother with them because of their oily skin. Somebody that has a compromised skin barrier that has already stripped it by medications, diet, and lifestyle, we've got, for example, we've got one client with melasma, and what I could do normally, I couldn't do with her because her skin was so stripped and so sensitive. So we had to go slow. If she walked in with the original oily skin that she's been busy stripping, we could have had some fun and turn things around faster. And we've got clients that have been on antibiotics for long periods of time. And so you think about, I understand the medical society's idea around it. They're thinking that the problem is inflammation in the sense that they need to kill a bacteria. Okay. But if I do antibiotics long term, I'm creating more inflammation, which is creating more of a problem. So this is like, and then Accutane, what am I creating? I'm creating more inflammation. I'm putting a toxic amount of vitamin A into my body, which is completely, what did you say? It completely depletes
just dries out all of your system. So you're like drying out your skin because that's the goal of it, is to dry out your skin, make it so you're not producing any sebum. So in turn, you're not getting acne. But then if you're drying out also your mucous membranes, and then your skin is thinning, and now we're causing organ damage because we need all of those like mucus in our body. Yeah, absolutely.
We need it. But the sad part is we'll get people in for acne that have been on Accutane for long periods of time. And once again, we can't do much with them. We have to move really slow and really cautious because they're so sensitive because of being depleted.
Right. And if they're coming in for treatment, but they're still on Accutane, what does that look like?
We can't
because it makes the skin so sensitive, and you can cause more detriment when you have the skin in that type of condition to start doing things. And so you really have to be off of it for a period of time before you can start doing it. You can start repairing your skin barrier and doing really awesome things and bringing back your hydration and moisture and just nourishing your skin. But as far as like doing actives and helping your dysfunctional pore, because remember, it's the dysfunctional pore that has the issue, and Accutane didn't fix that. So we can't do anything for that dysfunctional pore now.
Right.
While they're on it.
It's only depleted the oil and some of the certain type of bacteria, right?
Yeah, the dysfunction's still there.
The dysfunction's still there. What about antibiotics? I know you've had some clients that have been on antibiotics for a long time.
Yeah, I have. It's actually a woman that came to us recently. She's like, everything that I use makes my skin so sensitive. The only thing I can do is coconut oil. And I'm like, coconut oil is so confusing because for the longest time, there's been this huge surge. And I think we're starting to step away from it. But I think it was like an influencer thing for a while where people were talking about coconut oil on
Being
your
the
face. It's
solution for
like the
everything.
best for everything, for hair growth and all of these things. Well, turns out coconut oil is a 5 out of 5 on the comedogenic scale.
And irritation.
And it's also super irritating. So like using it on for hair growth, it's actually clogging your hair follicles. So this woman, she's actually acne prone, or has been, but she's been on antibiotics for the past 10 years. And she's like, yeah, I use coconut oil and I don't have acne. And I'm like, that's great. You don't have acne, but she's got thin skin and she's got glycation and she's got horrible gut health, and has been for, years and years, and had no idea that it could possibly be the antibiotic that she's been on for the past 10 years, because you're not thinking of the side effects. You're only thinking of this like benefit of, now I'm not breaking out. Well, at this point, we could have maybe already resolved that breaking out on your own. Like you might not need it
without having to be reliant on those antibiotics. Because I know, like, can you not become resistant to antibiotics after a certain period of time? Like nobody really wants to do it for 10 years, right?
Yeah. And what do they say? It's like, if you're on an antibiotic for 5 to 7 days, to take probiotics and do all these things with live culture so that you can help your gut health. Imagine taking that antibiotic for 10 years.
No.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Imagine she actually has something she really does need antibiotics for.
Right, of course. Yeah.
We've also had another gentleman, he had been on antibiotics for, I think, like 12 years. And he rebounded when he came off of it. It was pretty bad, but the rebound is from the inflammation, because he never resolved the reason why it was breaking out to begin with.
Right.
So, it takes time for those people that have been on long-term medications to reverse the damage that those medications have caused. And a diet switch has to happen for them. And sometimes it's not.
And I think it's important to, point out, like, the antibiotics, Accutane, those are temporary fixes, again, because we're not treating the root cause of your acne, which is the dysfunctional pore, right? What about, so people who are breaking out with acne have a dysfunctional pore, but I know that there's, everybody's skin is unique. So how does the person's skin impact your approach to their skincare? There's different types of acne, so I'm sure you go at it at all different angles.
So when we bring people in for consultations, we always take a look at their skin barrier and just see where they're at and test products on them. For people who are going to be starting actives at home, we have kind of a protocol for acclimation, for trying things out just to make sure you're not sensitive in the first place. So that's just based on sensitivity. And always wanting to use things that are repairing the skin barrier. You don't want to be using something that's pore clogging and then using something that's going to be meant to clear out the pore, because you're not going to get any positive effects from it.
Right.
But the other aspect is the type of acne that someone has. And so whether or not they have cystic acne or closed comedones, or what was the other
maturation arrest.
All of those, cystic acne, surprisingly, it looks the most painful, and it looks like it would be the hardest to clear, but it's actually the easiest. But when you get to these like closed comedones and the smaller, like more textury bumps, they're a lot harder to clear. And so a lot of times we have to like up ingredients as far as percentages go, and use things with smaller molecules so we can get deeper down in those pores. So everybody's approach, no matter the type of acne you have, is going to be different.
So one of the important things because Amelia was talking about inflamed cystic acne is usually the first to clear. And I just want to add one thing to that, as long as they're focusing on diet. Cystic acne, because it can trigger so many different hormones, it's not triggering hormones. Your hormones have already been triggered. There's something either in your diet or in your environment that is triggering that cystic acne. So inflamed acne is usually the easiest and the quickest to clear, as long as the food has been taken into consideration.
As long as we're looking at all of the things that could be causing inflammation, right? Because it's a lot of internal of the way that it's coming out, where like a closed comedone is typically something that's touching your skin that's causing it to.
I'm gonna get some haters, but one client comes to mind that she loves Herbalife shakes, loves Herbalife teas. So she got off the shakes and went to the teas, and I kept going, like, there's something still going on, and it's all the iodides in it.
Right.
So once she started school back up, she stopped going and getting one. And she came in for her appointment and been like 3 weeks, and she's completely clear. And
Wow.
I knew what it was, but I said, what has changed? And she goes, you might be right. I completely stopped Herbalife. I haven't had it in 3 weeks to a month. I can't remember.
Wow.
And I was like, let me record this for a second. What did you say? She's like, you might be right. That might be what it was. And she was still getting a cystic acne. So I'm always like, there's a potential. And I'd like to go into this a little bit, because a lot of people think I've tested for allergies to foods. I don't show anything. That doesn't mean a darn thing, because
Histamine reaction isn't necessarily the same as inflammation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is more than likely about lowering your spikes and your blood sugar levels. And it's super important. And what will spike mine might be different than what will spike yours. And you have to learn about yourself. And, I'm always like, whole foods are the way to go to start balancing out those blood sugar levels. Because if my sugar levels are off the charts, my production of androgens, my production of testosterone, my production of cortisol levels, and insulin is like a hormone.
Mhm.
So if I'm not putting in my mouth things to keep that storm calm, I'm creating inflammation that's triggering those breakouts.
Right.
And we find that it really triggers skin issues. So we usually approach diet with everybody that walks in our door or
Mhm.
that joins our program, because diet is huge.
So when you're lowering the spikes in blood sugar levels, how does that, there's a couple of reasons how that helps to clear acne, right?
Yes. Lowers our inflammation, heals our gut. I mean, like, think about it. If you're doing this on a constantly throughout the day, your body is working extra hard at balancing you out.
Right.
And so we want to keep it as clean and close as possible to keep that inflammation down.
Okay. What about, will it help with reducing like oil production?
So and it goes back to, it's super important to remember, sebum is not the enemy.
Right.
Sebum actually slows down aging.
Yes.
And typically,
Yeah.
like, oily people are going to age a whole lot slower than people who lean dry.
Thank you. But the issue is that it's back to when you strip your skin, you get an overproduction.
Mhm.
Same thing happens when you're triggering your insulin levels. So we've got these, super young girls that are showing up with PCOS. And once they have PCOS, we already know that we have to go after their diet. And a lot of times the kids or their parents have a really hard time imagining that their kid has to change their diet. But it usually, in order for them to get clear, diet has got to be looked at. And PCOS and female issues are on a rise right now because of our processed diet.
Yes, there's lots of hormones in our foods these days.
Yeah. And, I'm always like, I stay clear of that conversation, because if you're staying away from processed food,
Yes,
you're getting to a place where you're pretty okay. So if you're eating processed food all day and eating organic chicken, it's not going to work out. Like, the fact that you got organic or, non-processed, it's the processed foods that we want to balance everything out with.
so what kind of foods, can you just name some foods that would help to reduce the glycemic and blood sugar levels?
So it's always about a healthy fat and a protein, right? A healthy fat and a protein, and lower your processed food. So I'm always like, I try my best, except for the month of October.
What's your birthday? What's your birthday month?
To only eat whole foods.
Right.
So whole foods means it's a one ingredient food.
Protein, complex carbs, low glycemic foods.
Mhm.
If you're going to have juice, making sure that it's fruits, like whole fruits, organic, typically the best,
Yeah, not a
especially in
juice.
this country.
Not a juice, because it's taken out your pulp. So just no shakes.
No shakes, like,
Yeah, because shakes are giving you a fast insulin spike. So if I go and I eat a fruit juice, my CGM goes off the chart as though I just ate a regular shake. It doesn't know
oh,
the difference between the two. So if I eat a fruit, I want to eat a fruit. I'm going to eat, not drink my food.
right. Well, I mean, when we drink our food, we're kind of, you don't want to get in the habit of replacing food with a drink, right?
Yeah, and we love those quickie fixes,
I
don't we?
know.
Those shakes and those bars that supposedly give me what I want, and it's not. Our body's like, I don't know what this is, sister. I don't even know what it is.
I don't like
But
this and it's not
speaking
working. So,
of talking about food and talking about trying to balance it out, it's super important not to use it to stress.
right.
Like, right? Because we don't want, and it's not about a denial mechanism that we want to pretend like me eating a shake or eating this is not going to affect me. Yes, it does. But coming from it from a place of compassion and kindness brings down our cortisol levels and it helps us with stress. Like,
Which in turn helps our acne. It's a win-win.
hello.
Yeah, and I know that, when people are struggling with acne, it's stressful, right? Because there's so many physical aspects and psychological aspects to it that you don't feel confident, you're embarrassed, you're ashamed, you feel like, your skin's dirty, and you're trying all these products and services and, like, skincare, facials and stuff like that. But again, if, like you guys have said, if we're not looking into, our diet and treating that pore like it's dysfunctioning, right? It's going to be really, really difficult. And people are going to be on this vicious cycle of not ever be able to become as clear as they want to be, or again, temporary fixes.
If you think about people that come in and they think they're allergic to certain ingredients or certain products, and it's once again, it's because, a lot of people think they're allergic to vitamin A. It's
Right.
because they have been stripped
Mhm.
and using it most of the time just randomly and not with a prescription, not with, and when I say prescription, without a regimen, a plan in action
Right.
to make friends with my skin and slowly introduce ingredients that are important to help heal and reverse premature aging.
I know retinol is a big one because there's lots of people who say, I just can't tolerate retinol. I'm like, yes, you can.
Yes, you
Yes,
can.
you can. We just need to slow it down and, have a regimen set up for you, right? So that, I mean, you guys tell people in your programs how often they should be using their retinol, right? And we check in every 2 weeks, seeing how that retinol is doing. We tell them to scale back if they're noticing any extra dryness or anything like that. And then we can continue to increase that retinol so that they can wear it every night.
Yes.
And again, formulations are important. I know we've already done a podcast about that and all about vitamin A and all of the things, but formulations are important.
Yeah.
Not all vitamin A's are created equally. They are all not meant for the same purposes. And so if you have had a reaction to a vitamin A in the past, you might not have been using the right one for you. So there's all
so
that
smart
too.
to say that, because I in the past would listen to a podcast and be like, vitamin A, check. I'll go get one. Right. And it's,
I just want to slather that stuff on your skin, and and then it's like, oh, what's happening to my skin, right? And there's no guidance there for it. There's not a lot of guidance, especially if you're picking stuff up, in Big Beauty and
randomly.
stuff like that. You don't have that personalized touch to it and recommendations. So,
and who can you call? Who can you text and go, this is my reaction, what do I do? Instead, I just threw it in the bottom of my shelves in my cabinet and was over it and thought I can't do vitamin A's.
Yep, just not for me. And vitamin A works for acneic skin, not just anti-aging. It's great for acne.
What does Ashton say? My youngest son, he says, it makes my skin like a baby's bottom.
Yes. It sure does.
Sure does.
Yeah. All right. So what is causing your acne? We've just gone through the dysfunction of the pore and how diet can play a huge role in, your insulin levels and blood sugar levels, and reducing that inflammation, because we really want to get that inflammation reduced so that we can work on that pore. So thank you for joining us today, ladies. Always a pleasure. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. You can send us a DM, or you can email us at info@clearskinsolutions.com, and we will get back to you right away. We're very prompt with answering questions. So if you do have a question and your skin's like freaking out or something, send us a message and the girls will be able to put you on the right path. So thanks, ladies, for being here again, and we will see everybody
Thank you so
next
much,
time.
Celia.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody.